Her fans know her as the Princess of Pop. She shot to the top as a teen and reigned supreme, all the while amassing a fortune.
It's Britney, bitch.
But with Britney's superstar status came mega legal battles.
Britney and Kevin entered into a faux wedding agreement while the lawyers haggled over a massive prenup.
A divorce, messy child custody dispute, and very public meltdown ended with a dramatic family intervention.
They were seeking full control of Britney's medical and financial decisions.
But Britney bounced back and showed the world why she's the Princess of Pop. On this episode of Fortune Fights, husband and wife media experts and attorneys Danielle and Andy Mayoris examine the exploits of the cultural phenomenon that is Britney Spears. Los Angeles, California, a mecca for the entertainment industry, home to some of the world's biggest stars. Along its famous Mulholland Drive, multi-million-dollar homes are nestled in the canyons. It's here that celebrities like pop superstar Britney Spears retreat to their private lives.
Protecting the family privacy is not uncommon for celebrities. They want to shield their children from paparazzi while they're still young and impressionable.
But on the evening of Thursday, January 3rd, 2008, in the prestigious gated community known as The Summit, the peace and quiet was shattered when police got a call from the home of the 26-year-old singer.
Britney was distraught and appeared suicidal.
Britney was in the midst of a bitter custody battle with her ex-husband, Kevin Federline. That day, she had a court-supervised visit with her two young sons.
At the end of the visit, Britney didn't want to let her boys go back to their father.
This particular crisis was just one of many in a series of bizarre incidents.
Britney locked herself in the bathroom with her 1-year-old son, Jaden James. She didn't want to give him back to her dad after the visitation, so cops were called.
Police said that they thought she was under the influence of some sort of substance.
Inside the home, police tried to talk Britney out of the bathroom. After hours of trying to talk her into coming out, the officers decided to use force.
They broke down the door. Now, Britney's son was fine, but she was another story.
Paramedics strapped Britney onto a gurney and wheeled her out of her home. When the paparazzi caught wind of it, they descended on the Summit Enclave where Britney lived.
All hell broke out. Along with the paparazzi, there were police cars, there were ambulances, fire trucks, there was a police chopper that was buzzing overhead.
Shortly after, an ambulance left Britney's house led by a fleet of police vehicles.
She was taken to Cedars-Sinai Hospital, where the ambulance was mobbed by paparazzi, hoping to get a photo of the fallen star.
She was going down a spiral that she may never have recovered from.
Divorce is a very personal issue, and it's incredibly heartbreaking, and it must have been very difficult for Britney to deal with a divorce in the public eye.
For a celebrity of this magnitude, maintaining the space between a public life and a private one is a delicate balance.
Everybody knows about her, everyone knows what she looks like, but still, she is mysterious. She's truly an enigma.
By any definition, it was a spectacular fall, leaving Britney's family, friends, and fans wondering, how did it all come to this? Born on December 2nd, 1981, Britney Jean Spears grew up a Southern girl in the tiny town of Kentwood, Louisiana, not far from the Mississippi border.
Britney is the middle child. She has an older brother, Brian, and a younger sister, Jamie Lynn.
Her mother, Lynn, was a school teacher, and her father, Jamie, was a contractor.
A precocious Britney caught the singing bug at a very young age. When she was 6 years old, she performed for the first time, singing at her kindergarten graduation.
She'd come from nowhere. She was not born rich. She had a rather simple life, and she was born with a talent that was both her way out, but also a handicap in some ways, because it accelerated her into the public spotlight before she was ready.
In 1989, when Britney was 8, she and her mother drove to Atlanta, where an open audition was being held for the Mickey Mouse Club TV show.
Britney wowed them at the audition, but she was too young for the show. Still, a casting director gave her mother the name of a New York talent agent.
Lynn packed up her daughter and moved to the Big Apple, where Britney honed her skills for the next 2 years, determined to make a name for herself.
Britney studied acting and dancing. She landed some TV commercials. She was in an off-Broadway production, Ruthless. She also sang on the TV competition show Star Search.
From Kentwood, Louisiana, here is 10-year-old Britney Spears.
Britney didn't win the contest, but Disney took notice. In 1992, Britney got her big break.
Britney Spears started her career at age 11 with a starring role in the all-new Mickey Mouse Club.
She was part of an impressive cast that included future stars Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, Kerry Russell, and Ryan Gosling. Even in that crowd, Britney was a standout.
She was an instant fan favorite and followed her Mickey Mouse Club career with a transition into singing.
In 1997, after the show's run, 16-year-old Britney landed a development deal with Jive Records.
After recording her debut album, but before its release, Britney hit the road for a big promotional tour.
Britney performed as the opening act during a mall tour for NSYNC, a boy band featuring friend and former Mouseketeer Justin Timberlake. Getting herself out there in advance of the release paid off, creating buzz and valuable name recognition.
Hi, I'm Britney Spears. Check out my new album at all Target stores.
In late 1998, when Jive released Britney's first single, Baby One More Time, it shot to the top of the charts.
Britney was able to find this balance between the wholesome Southern image as well as this new sexy look where she'd go out with these revealing outfits. Now for her, she was able to perfectly balance both.
Britney was on her way to establishing herself as a pop icon.
With her first album selling over 10 million copies worldwide, Britney was a millionaire by the time she was 18.
Not only was her bank account growing, so was her popularity, as Britney began to be recognized everywhere she went.
I'm just now starting to get, like you'll go into a store and people will be like asking you for your autograph and stuff, but it's flattering to me. I think it's really sweet.
Yeah, well, you're a level-headed young girl, and I hope that you stay that way, and I think that you will.
Just 1 year later, in 2000, her second album, Oops, I Did It Again, was an instant hit, with 1 million record sales the first week.
She got everyone's attention with Oops, I Did It Again. She came out hot right away with the sex appeal. She started with that not so innocent look. And then before you know it, Britney is like full vixen pop star and kind of completely owning that space.
In the early 2000s, not only was Britney Spears on top of the pop world, she was cutting one lucrative deal after another.
Britney also had a multi-million-dollar deal with Pepsi to be their spokeswoman. This, in addition to 2 books that she published with her mother, helped Britney build her fortune.
Along with the fortune came intense media attention.
No matter where you looked, if you were in line at a grocery store, every single tabloid was Britney. If you turned on the TV, if it was your local news, it was Britney. Then the nightly news would come on, it was Britney. Then you'd go to the cable news, it was Britney.
Adding to the fevered coverage was Britney's romance with NSYNC's Justin Timberlake, which began in 1999 after Britney toured with NSYNC.
For 3 years, Britney and Justin were the it couple. The media lavished attention on them. They were everywhere.
In 2002, she expanded beyond pop artist to actress, appearing in the film Crossroads.
I was on my 3rd tour, and I just wanted to try something different.
With her movie Crossroads grossing over $60 million, Britney was more than just a pop star.
Britney was a powerhouse, securing the #1 spot on Forbes' Celebrity 100 list in 2002. The magazine considered earnings and media exposure to determine star power. Britney had that in spades. By 2002, she was worth over $64 million.
Britney Spears, at just 20 years old, was labeled as Hollywood's most powerful celebrity.
She wasn't just a singer. I mean, she was the #1 singer at her time. #1 person around. Everybody knew her songs. The girl couldn't go from one room, probably in her own house, to another without being mobbed by someone.
But Forbes cautioned against overexposure and wondered if the Britney brand could last.
Within months, the answer would play out publicly, as Britney's personal and professional life suffered major blows, putting the young star under serious emotional strain.
Having the pressure of having the career that she did, which was so much in the public eye, it would be natural and relatively common for someone to want to numb out of that.
Impulsive decisions on stage and off peaked with a notoriously lackluster performance at the 2007 MTV Video Music Awards.
It was really deemed a disaster by the fans, the media, and the critics.
All eyes were on Britney, as attention-grabbing photos caused serious concerns.
You're then surrounded by so many, people who are only going to be there to say yes. And unfortunately, you need somebody there to say no. And that's what will help keep you grounded.
This was kind of the beginning of a very dark period for Britney.
This dark period would drive her family to make drastic decisions.
Britney's parents likely felt they had no other choice.
On Fortune Fights, attorneys Danielle and Andy Mayoris explored the legal ups and downs of entertainment's biggest stars. 20 years into her career, Britney Spears remains one of the most popular female artists of all time. Still, her road to success hasn't been without its setbacks.
Like other icons and legends, Britney didn't even need a last name. She was known to the whole world simply as Britney.
By the time she was 21 years old, Britney evolved from a squeaky clean Disney Mouseketeer to a slinky vixen, an image she parlayed into immense financial success.
Britney had her hands in just about everything. Record sales, concerts, merchandise, commercials, even TV and film work. She had amassed a net worth of $64 million.
Britney's 3-year romance with Justin Timberlake was also going strong.
The paparazzi just loved Britney and Justin. They were Hollywood's ultimate power couple.
But in the summer of 2002, Britney's world began to fall apart.
Justin suddenly dumped Britney, and she was absolutely devastated by the breakup.
Making matters worse, after 27 years of marriage, Britney's parents divorced.
Her parents' marriage and her boyfriend Justin were the great stabilizers in her big oversized life. Now, both of these foundations were gone.
Her personal life may have been in shambles, but professionally, Britney soldiered on, releasing In the Zone in 2003 and getting her own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Britney also branched out commercially. In 2004, she created a fragrance with Elizabeth Arden called Curious. It did amazing. She was selling one perfume every 15 seconds. By the end of the year, Curious had grossed $100 million.
Then in January of 2004, we got the stunning news that Britney was married.
It happened in Vegas during a weekend with friends, including Britney's childhood crush, Jason Alexander. After partying all night, Britney and Jason hopped in a limo, went to the Little White Wedding Chapel, and tied the knot.
Understandably, everyone in Britney's camp was shocked, and her mother was furious. She flew out to Las Vegas and met with Britney and Britney's management team, and 55 hours after Britney got married, the marriage was annulled.
It was starting to look like the pressure of superstardom was taking a toll on Spears, as it had on other young celebrities.
When they're confronted with challenges in life, they'll have meltdowns or they'll turn to substance abuse. You don't know how they're going to act.
In April 2004, just months after her quickie wedding and annulment, Britney was at a nightclub in West Hollywood when she met a new love interest, a 25-year-old backup dancer named Kevin Federline.
Like Madonna, like Jennifer Lopez, and I'm sure countless other pop stars. This was another romance that started with a backup dancer.
Britney and Kevin hit it off and began a whirlwind romance.
As soon as Kevin Federline was seen in public with Britney Spears, well, the media blew up. K-Fed was everywhere. The romance was quick.
Britney invited K-Fed to join her on tour in Europe. Along the way, they documented their relationship for a TV series called Britney and Kevin, Chaotic.
It's kind of interesting to see how we fell in love, got in fights, everything, you know, it's just kind of there.
I don't know how much of fights it shows.
Well, it doesn't show all the fights, but you can feel the tension. Like, it's cool. It's different.
Sure.
That June, after dating for just 3 months, Britney and Kevin got engaged. The quick courtship was followed by a whirlwind engagement of only a few months. They planned to marry in October, but after the media got wind of it, they moved the date up to September 18th.
The move caused a big legal problem for Britney and her legal team because they were insisting on a prenup. The problem is, prenups take a long time to negotiate when you're dealing with these types of assets, and they didn't have the time.
To keep the wedding on track, Britney and Kevin drew up another legal document.
Britney and Kevin entered into a faux wedding agreement while the lawyers haggled over a massive prenup.
Britney's ironclad prenuptial agreement was some 60 pages long, triple the average length. It carefully protected her vast array of assets and company brands, which left her with a net worth valued at $84 million.
As part of the agreement, if Kevin and Britney divorced, Kevin would have no claim to the earnings that Britney made either before or during their marriage.
The agreement included an unusual provision that provided even more protection for Britney.
The prenuptial agreement included a clause saying that any gifts in excess of $7,000 would need to be addressed in a separate legal agreement, and she wanted to make sure in the event of a divorce that she was going to recoup that money down the road.
There was also the standard celebrity clause that provided money for a spouse for every year married.
The prenup originally called for Federline to receive $250,000 for each year of their marriage.
But during the negotiations, Britney increased the offer.
Britney upped the amount to $500,000 a year to speed up negotiations.
In Britney's case, she may have agreed to pay more to get the confidentiality provision. Britney most likely would have been willing to be more generous in the divorce settlement to keep Federline from airing their dirty laundry in paperback form.
3 weeks after their faux wedding, with the prenup in place, Britney and Kevin legally tied the knot, but the honeymoon was short.
Things started showing signs of fracture pretty early on. I think the honeymoon lasted, probably as long as one of their dances lasted.
Within a year, 23-year-old Britney became pregnant, giving birth to a son, Sean Preston, in 2005. With the young pop star now a mom, the pressure intensified.
With all of that attention and, from the record labels and the touring demand, and now she has a family to take care of as well, that's a lot for anybody. And for someone in her position at this time in her career, we saw that things were beginning to fall apart.
Adding to the pressure was incessant tabloid coverage, scrutinizing every Britney move.
Excuse us, we're trying to get a picture of Britney Spears.
Join the club.
Trying to be a parent is hard enough, but when you're trying to parent under the light of the paparazzi and everything you do is being scrutinized, it makes it that much more difficult.
First, she was photographed driving with 4-month-old Sean Preston on her lap, and then a few months later, she was clearly looking very frazzled. She appeared to almost drop him out of her arms.
But in May 2006, 24-year-old Britney was all smiles when she announced she was pregnant again. Her second son, Jaden, was born that September. But just 2 months later, Britney stunned her fans when she filed for divorce.
In her divorce papers, Britney cited irreconcilable differences and asked for full custody of both of the children. Irreconcilable differences is a pretty standard thing to cite in divorce papers. It basically just means that you're not getting along with your spouse.
Kevin fought back, and a bitter custody battle broke out. In 2007, while the couple was in and out of court, Britney's behavior became erratic.
She started drinking more and using drugs. That's a very common reaction to divorce and the heartbreak that's involved in changing one's life in such a big way.
Britney dealt with her heartbreak by returning to old habits, partying and going to clubs with celebrity friends. She also began leading the paparazzi on wild goose chases.
There had been these instances of high-speed driving in and around LA. Her frustration with the paparazzi in LA had reached a boiling point.
In January 2007, Britney and Kevin agreed to a joint custody arrangement for their children. The next month, she checked into a rehab center, only to check out the very next day.
After Britney checked out of rehab, she went to Kevin's house so she could see her kids, but she was told she couldn't see them until she went back to treatment.
That night, Britney drove to a local salon and shaved her head. Just days later, she attacked a photographer's car with an umbrella. Britney had reached the breaking point.
Britney's loved ones decided enough was enough and she needed help. The singer-psychiatrist called 911 on their behalf.
By early 2008, 26-year-old pop superstar Britney Spears' life had fallen apart, on top of dealing with the aftermath of a highly publicized breakdown.
Britney Spears. She's bald.
Spears was embroiled in a custody battle with ex Kevin Federline over the couple's 2 children, 2-year-old Sean Preston and 1-year-old Jaden James.
Federline ultimately received about $2 million. He also received half of the proceeds from the sale of their Malibu mansion, which was listed at $13.5 million at the time.
Britney also has reportedly paid $20,000 per month in child support for each of the children. In September, following all the chaos of the past year, Britney returned to the stage at MTV's Video Music Awards.
Britney's appearance at the VMAs was highly anticipated. This was her comeback performance.
But it was hardly the moment her fans had been waiting for.
She was a little sluggish. Her mind wasn't in it, her body wasn't in it. She wasn't singing to the track on time, and that always looked super weird. I mean, it wasn't the Britney that we knew when she was on top of her game.
Some people were very much concerned about where Britney's head was at. There were some out there who actually reveled in her downfall.
After her disastrous VMA performance, things only got worse for Britney.
Kevin took Britney back to court seeking full custody of the kids because Britney failed to take a court-ordered drug and alcohol test.
In October 2007, the judge dealt Britney a major blow.
The judge awarded her ex, Kevin, full temporary custody of the 1- and 2-year-old boys. In fact, Britney wasn't even allowed to see them alone. She had to be court supervised by somebody else in the room at all times. This is a very extreme measure that's done when the judge is worried that the parent isn't capable of safely interacting with her own kids.
According to the order, Britney would have court-monitored visits with her children 3 times a week while undergoing random drug and alcohol tests.
After the court ruling, Britney didn't spend her night at home. She spent it in her car, sleeping in a parking lot.
We had these number of episodes in Britney's life, so we knew that she was battling emotionally, internally, and not necessarily knowing how to deal with this.
In late October, Britney released her 5th album, Blackout. She didn't promote it, and it was her first album not to debut at the top of the charts. Hoping to revamp her struggling career, Spears called for reinforcement.
Enter Sam Lutfi in Britney's life. Now here's a guy who said that he wanted to take her career, move it forward, get her back up to where she used to be. But many people saw him as a Svengali, some guy who was probably going to take her down a path that she really didn't want to go.
According to some, Lutfi was in cahoots with the paparazzi, allegedly tipping them off about Britney's whereabouts.
It was just Britney every single place you look. It all culminated with this really heartbreaking moment.
On January 3rd, 2008, police were called to Britney's house after she refused to give her children back to ex-husband Kevin Federline following her visitation. She was removed from her home and hospitalized.
This woman has been through so much. She just seemed to be on top of the world just a few years ago, and this is just another huge blow. What started off as a custody dispute, as you said, ended up here at the hospital.
Just days later, against the advice of doctors, Britney checked out of the hospital. Then, on January 31st, police were called again after Britney's family became worried.
The singer-psychiatrist called 911 on their behalf.
Shortly after, an ambulance left Britney's house, led by a fleet of police vehicles.
It was very concerning because this was the second time in a span of a month that Britney had to be taken to the hospital for an emergency mental health evaluation.
Britney's health and well-being had quickly become her family's top concern.
The day after Britney's second hospitalization, her father went before a judge at the Superior Court in Los Angeles.
Jamie asked the court to establish a temporary conservatorship for his daughter. This would give him broad control over her medical treatment, visitors, security, and daily life.
In California, the legal test for conservatorship is whether the person is unable to provide properly for his or her personal needs or physical health, food, clothing, or shelter.
It was a severe measure.
Britney's parents likely felt they had no other choice. Her downward spiral wasn't likely to stop without a dramatic intervention.
Britney would soon find her father taking control of every aspect of her life.
This meant that Britney no longer had the right to make basic decisions for herself that other adults take for granted.
You can't get married, you can't buy a house. You really need to check in with someone else in order to make some of the basic decisions in your life to more important decisions in your life. So it's not something that is very desirable to have.
The judge agreed it was needed, but with limits.
Britney's initial conservatorship was granted on an emergency basis, and the court would need to more fully evaluate her for the judge to grant the petition for permanent conservatorship.
In the following weeks, as the paparazzi kept up its breathless coverage of Britney, the temporary conservatorship remained in place.
At the time, Jamie's lawyer said that he only wanted to watch over her assets while she was healing, and he said he would return control once she was well.
With someone who's in the public eye like Britney, it's probably very hard to trust whether someone is actually sincere in their care for her or whether they're not. So when she can lean on her mother and father, it is an incredible strength for her recovery and sobriety plan.
During the next several months, as Britney worked on her recovery, she began taking steps to regain control of her life. She went to court and secured more visitation time with her children while Kevin kept full custody. But she also grew frustrated with the conservatorship.
According to one of her lawyers at the time, Britney was not comfortable with her father as her conservator. She believed that he had too much control over her life.
She described her life as being without excitement or passion. She equated her situation to being in jail.
Britney even went so far as to hire an attorney to fight the arrangement, but lost in court.
Based on Britney's medical evaluation, the judge ruled that the attorney could not represent Britney. She was not capable of selecting her own attorney.
This is really unusual. In conservatorship proceedings, the person who's going to be subject to a conservatorship has the right to their own attorney of their choice. In this case, since the judge was not allowing Britney to select her own attorney, he was essentially saying that she wasn't even mentally competent to do that.
When Britney Spears was not allowed to pick that person to speak for her, it really hamstrung her ability to contest this conservatorship.
Although frustrated by the order, Britney accepted it so as not to jeopardize her child custody arrangement. In late October, Britney's parents were back in court, seeking to make the conservatorship permanent. The court agreed it was needed.
The court gave Jamie control over every facet of her life and her career.
The judge's comments about why she agreed to make this conservatorship permanent are especially interesting. One, she was concerned that Britney Spears needed protection because of undue influence of others. And number two, she pointed out to the complexity of the business and financial affairs surrounding Britney Spears.
It's really interesting because essentially what the judge was saying is that one of the reasons Britney needed a conservatorship was because she had so much money, and the judge was very concerned that she was going to be unduly influenced. So it raises a question, does someone with more money need a conservatorship more? Well, maybe, because when there's more money around, more people come out of the woodwork trying to get at that money.
But that financial success was declining. By the end of 2008, lawyers estimated Britney's net worth had been reduced to $42 million, still a hefty amount, but down $20 million from 4 years earlier when her meltdown began.
Lackluster record sales, no concerts, and way too much spending is what led to Britney's financial downfall.
Going forward, the court ordered that as part of the conservatorship, Britney's father would carefully track the money.
Any and all of Britney's purchases are tracked in court documents.
You have to file detailed reports with the court at least once a year so the court can review and approve how the assets have been managed and oversee the expenses. Keep in mind that conservatorships are public proceedings, so these are public documents that anyone can access. And that's why in 2017, when Jamie Spears filed the 2016 accounting, we were able, as well as the media, to look up what exactly she was spending her money on. So in 2016, we found out that she spent $11 million. $30,000 of that was spent on her dog. She had about $24,000 spent on hair and makeup, and there were tens of thousands of dollars spent on massages.
It was agreed that Jamie would receive $130,000 per year for managing his daughter's conservatorship.
Now, here's a guy who could actually go in and demand probably $1 million a week because of what his daughter's bringing in. But no, he's doing this as a job to make sure that everything stays on the straight and narrow.
By late 2008, as Britney's health improved, she began to show signs of making a comeback.
Oh, hey, thanks for coming. I'm opening the VMAs this year.
As we know, like a year and a half before, at the VMAs, she had embarrassed herself in front of the entire world.
She didn't perform this time, but looking happy and healthy, Britney accepted her first MTV Moon Man Award. After 16 previous nominations, she took home 3 trophies that night.
And in that same month, Britney dropped the song Womanizer, which became her first #1 hit in about a decade.
The next spring, Britney kicked off her Circus World Tour. It was her first tour in 5 years and opened to rave reviews.
This was nothing less than a pop extravaganza. Britney was the ring mistress, there were acrobatics, there were pyrotechnics. Britney was strutting her stuff, the fans loved it. They welcomed her back with open arms.
Britney's next tour was a success, making over $130 million, and also putting her in 5th place as the top grossing female performer ever on tour.
Britney's health and her career seemed back on track, but she wasn't out of the woods just yet. Questions about the conservatorship would soon be overshadowed by a legal attack by Britney's self-proclaimed manager, Sam Lutfi.
Sam Lutfi filed a lawsuit against Britney and her parents for battery, libel, and breach of contract.
After rising to fame as a teenager and scoring hit after hit on the music charts, Britney Spears went through hell and back and had the divorce papers to prove it. After a devastating public meltdown in early 2008, 27-year-old pop superstar Britney Spears was back on top of the music world by the fall of 2009.
She earned her career back and was a chart topper once again.
Her single called 3 debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts. You know what that means? Britney was back.
Despite her recent professional successes, Britney's parents still wanted to protect her from what they viewed as one of the major negative influences in her life, which brought them back to court.
The judge granted a restraining order to protect Britney from those that her parents felt were improperly influencing her. This included primarily Sam Lutfi.
According to Britney's family, Sam Lutfi, the man who'd been by Britney's side for months, contributed to their daughter's breakdown.
He was with her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, leading up to her meltdown in early 2008.
In a 6-page declaration, Britney's mother, Lynn, described Lutfi as the man who inserted himself into my daughter's life, home, and finances.
In the court papers that were filed, they were saying that Britney needed to be protected because otherwise she was going to be in physical harm and there was going to be interference with the medical care that she so desperately needed.
And according to Lynn, Sam told her, you'd better learn that I control everything.
The judge issued a restraining order that he needed to stay 250 yards away from Britney at all times.
But Sam Lutfi wasn't having any of it.
Bogus restraining order that's in appeal right now, you mean? The bogus conservatorship, you know, for someone who can go on tour and dance around. And, I don't know, it's the same routine, it's the same song. It's like, when's this ever gonna end, man? When's it ever end?
Despite her legal troubles, Britney was making strides in her personal life, finding love again with 37-year-old Jason Trawick. 10 years older than Britney, Jason began working with her in 2006 as her agent.
Jason was Britney's rock. He was there for her during her breakdown, and he was also there to help her reshape her image during her comeback.
In 2009, Britney and Jason began dating, but if she ever wanted to walk down the aisle again, it wouldn't be up to her.
Britney could not get married or make any other decisions of consequence without first obtaining her father's permission.
She had no say over her day-to-day existence. She was completely at her father's mercy, something that would be frustrating to any adult.
With the conservatorship still fully in place, in June 2011, Britney was back on stage for her Femme Fatale tour. At 29 years old, Britney was a veteran performer who did not disappoint her fans.
This was Britney's 8th tour and her 7th album, Femme Fatale. This tour was fantastic, making over $70 million.
After wrapping the tour in December 2011, Britney had a major announcement. She and her boyfriend of 2 years, Jason Trawick, were engaged. According to sources, Trawick adored Britney's then 5- and 6-year-old boys. Not only was Jason preparing to take on the role of stepdad, but he acquired another important role in Britney's life too.
Britney's father, Jamie, agreed to petition the court to be co-conservator with Jason. According to Britney's attorney, it was her idea, and the judge did appoint Jason as co-conservator. But what we should note, it wasn't co-conservator over everything. It was just co-conservator over Britney's medical decisions. So the financial empire of Team Spears was still being controlled by Britney's dad.
Jason agreed, and in addition to helping oversee the conservatorship, he took on a new role as Britney's manager, negotiating a new lucrative deal for Britney.
Britney is one of the biggest pop stars in the world.
In 2012, Britney was back on TV as a judge with Simon Cowell on The X Factor.
Britney Spears has been in the spotlight at this point now well more than a decade. She's been judged the entire time. She's been scrutinized. Every single move she's made has been under a microscope. And now all of a sudden she's in a role where she's the judge for the very first time as she enters into the X Factor.
You know, it's different from anything I've ever done before, but it's a lot of fun. We get to sit back and get to be entertained, and it's wonderful. It's really cool.
The payday was hefty.
Initially, Simon Cowell's camp offered her $10 million. Now, Britney thought, hey, I'm worth a bit more than that. So she countered with $20 million, and she also said she would take media training.
Britney left the show after one season, amid rumors of having zero chemistry with Cowell.
Because we're talking Britney and Simon Cowell, two mega personalities at this point. And they're not meshing.
He claimed she was awkward on camera and found it difficult to talk to the judges about the contestants.
She had signed up for judging, but was ultimately uncomfortable giving negative critiques to contestants.
She wants only the best for them. And so she's having a hard time kind of scrutinizing them. This is something that she just doesn't want to do. Emotionally, physically, it feels foreign to her. And Cowell, this is everything that he's made of, right? This is his MO.
Many viewed that as a good thing.
She was empathetic. She sympathized with the performers, and we liked her. So in the end, it was a brilliant communications move for her.
Being a judge on The X Factor was the exact move that she needed to recover from any negative publicity that was lingering from previous years.
But soon, another nasty legal battle reared its ugly head after Britney's former self-proclaimed manager, Sam Lutfi, filed a lawsuit.
Sam Lutfi filed a lawsuit against Britney and her parents for battery, libel, and breach of contract.
He claimed to be owed compensation as Britney's manager. Sam Lutfi was about to go to trial.
In the lead up to the trial, the judge ruled Britney would not have to give a deposition or testify because of the conservatorship.
Britney's management team would go to great lengths to avoid the pop star having to answer questions in a deposition. They argued that the questions would be difficult for her and her testimony could somehow be leaked to the media.
The stress of the deposition could have had a very negative impact on her psychological well-being.
But as testimony got underway, sordid details emerged about Britney's 2007 meltdown. Lutfi leveled allegations of rampant drug use by Britney, claiming her erratic behavior was due to drugs, which he tried to help her quit. He also claimed that Jamie Spears threatened his life.
Lutfi claimed that Jamie struck him and he was entitled to damages even though he suffered no physical harm.
And Lutfi claimed a tell-all book written by Britney's mother defamed him and led to death threats. But halfway through the trial, there was a surprise.
The case was suddenly dismissed.
He didn't have a legal leg to stand on, according to the judge.
The judge threw out all of Lutfi's claims, including the claim that he was due 15% of Britney's income during the time he worked with her.
The judge ruled there was no actual written contract, and the judge didn't think there was enough evidence of a verbal contract to justify Lutfi's claim. So the judge threw it out.
Now, while this may have seemed like a victory for Team Britney, he was threatening to appeal, and he did.
The appeal would put Britney on the legal hot seat.
In the past, Britney had escaped having to sit for a deposition because the court felt that she was not psychologically capable of answering the questions and it would actually do damage to her. But at this point, she could no longer use that escape route. She was going to be forced to sit under oath and answer a lawyer's questions in a deposition.
In late 2012, pop superstar Britney Spears scored a major court victory when a judge threw out former self-proclaimed manager Sam Lutfi's lawsuit against her and her parents. He immediately filed an appeal. It couldn't have been worse timing for the pop superstar. Legal analysts and advisors, Danielle and Andy Mayoris, detail the shocking sequence of events following the appeal.
In 2012, as Britney should have been preparing for her wedding to Trawick, a case filed by her former manager, Sam Lutfi, was about to go to trial.
Because of the ongoing legal battle, Britney put her love life on hold, postponing her wedding plans until the Lutfi case was settled. But just a few weeks later came word that the wedding was off altogether.
Both Britney and Trawick released statements claiming that they still cared for each other, but mutually decided to call off their engagement.
After their breakup, Jason resigned as Britney's co-conservator.
Although they said the breakup was mutual, reports have said that acting as co-conservator really took a toll on Jason. Their relationship became all business and no romance.
In essence, he was making all the rules for her, which can be really helpful initially, but in the long term, that actually doesn't cause the person to really gain long-term recovery because they have to be an active member in their life and make choices based on what they believe is right or wrong.
There were rumblings that 31-year-old Britney wanted just that, to take on more responsibility.
Britney had grown restless under her conservatorship.
Britney Spears was enjoying a lot of success, so at some point you have to ask yourself, why is there still a conservatorship?
In meetings with the judge, Britney said that after 5 years of conservatorship, she was ready to take on more control of her life.
She didn't understand why it was still in place and pointed out that she had to be the only person under a conservatorship that routinely brought in multi-million-dollar paychecks.
It appears she was fine with it staying in place as far as her business life was concerned, but when it came to her personal life, Britney wanted to call the shots.
The judge allowed some restrictions to be eased up, but the conservatorship remained in place, and Britney got back to work with a huge announcement.
Britney appeared on Good Morning America in 2013 and announced that she was going to be doing a Las Vegas residency.
For the next 2 years, Las Vegas and the Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino was home as Britney played to sold-out crowds, making $475,000 a night for her Piece of Me show.
All the highs, all the lows in Britney's career, it all culminates with what is now like the staple of icon status, which is a continuous show in Vegas.
Britney's career has been filled with #1s, including this one. She was the first pop star to have a Las Vegas residency. Big success.
During the run, Britney had to put business aside after an appellate court ruling came down in the Sam Lutfi case.
The court ordered a new trial on his claim of a verbal contract with Britney to be paid as her manager.
In the ruling, Lutfi won another victory.
The judge actually ruled that Britney could sit for a deposition.
Lutfi's lawyers successfully argued that how could they be expected to put on proof of a verbal agreement between Lutfi and Britney when they didn't even have the right to make Britney testify about what happened? And the Court of Appeals agreed.
In May 2016, Britney sat down with lawyers to answer questions about her dispute with Lutfi.
Britney took tremendous strides to prove her competency, including appearing on The X Factor, her Vegas residency, and she was able to provide a deposition without breaking down.
The case was set to go to court in October 2016, but on the eve of the trial, there was a surprise announcement from the Spears camp.
Jamie ultimately settled the case not long before trial for an undisclosed sum.
Took him to court, won, they followed the slap order, we won that. None of that stuff's true. I came into that girl's life to help her out. And that's basically it.
As an attorney, I can understand why they settled. It makes sense, because if they push forward with a trial, not only would Britney be deposed, but a lot of other information would come out about her personal life. And you better believe that when he signed that settlement agreement with Britney, there was a confidentiality provision in there, so he couldn't do a tell-all book or tell the press all the details and secrets he had on Britney.
With the Lutfi case finally behind her, Team Britney focused on work. In late 2017, Britney wrapped up her Piece of Me Vegas residency.
As of February 2017, the show had grossed $120 million and attracted 700,000 fans, making it one of the most successful shows in Las Vegas.
It's pretty incredible to look at where a person can come in just 10 years. 2007, that was as dark as it gets. And when you look at where she is today, I mean, she's killing it on a regular basis.
It came to a point where Britney had to save herself. Her handlers, advisors could put her in the right situation, which is what they did. She needed publicity, and she needed to be exposed in a way that she hadn't been before. She needed to be shown as a performer that had many talents, who could do some acting, who could do some comedy, who could do serious albums. Her handlers did a very good job of putting her in those situations, and she delivered.
In the years since her breakdown, many people, including the pop star herself, have said that her father saved her life through their conservatorship.
There's little doubt that this conservatorship process was instrumental in rescuing Britney Spears and reviving not only her personal life, but her career.
I think that in a weird way, it turned out to be a benefit to her from a public relations perspective, even though her father probably never intended it that way.
It's a career that has spanned decades and generated millions.
I feel like, to a degree, we've all kind of grown up with Britney and are pretty well aware that at this point, she's not a teeny bopper teenage star that she was in the 90s. She's a woman. She has a family. She has kids.
Britney still shares custody of her kids with her ex, Kevin Federline. And after a long and public battle over child support, the pair has reached a settlement. According to sources close to the negotiations, Britney agreed to pay Kevin thousands more a month on top of the $20,000 she'd already been paying. The star has long since moved on with her love life, having been linked romantically with model and fitness trainer Sam Asghari since 2017.
It seems as though Britney has stabilized in her recovery. She has her children back, she seems to be in a happy relationship, and she's able to engage in her life without any scandals.
Britney's success, both personally and professionally, has sparked renewed talk of ending the conservatorship.
This is a very unusual situation. Conservatorships are usually put in place for somebody with mental deficits or somebody older who may have dementia. It's extraordinarily rare for somebody with the capabilities of Britney Spears to perform on stage, to perform on TV, to bring in tens of millions of dollars, and not even be able to make basic decisions over her own life. At some point, this has to stop.
And they did stop it. Britney and her dad decided the time was right and ended the conservatorship. But it worked for her, exactly as it should have.
Conservatorships are not all bad. Conservatorships serve a purpose. When someone has a mental illness, when someone has gone off the rails, a conservatorship is the perfect tool to help get them back on track.
With Britney back on track and the conservatorship ended, she is a woman in charge of her own life.
Considering where she was, Britney's comeback is astounding. She turned around her personal and professional life, rebooted her image, and ended up on top. And all along the way, she had a dedicated fan base rooting her on.
Maybe this time the good times are here to stay and the troubles of her past are really behind her.
She's long reigned as the princess of pop, but she just might be proving herself to be the comeback queen.